What if everything you blame on bad luck is actually a calculated attack? You've been stuck for months, maybe years. Your dreams? Frozen. Your progress? Stalled. Your breakthrough? Almost. And you've convinced yourself it's just timing, just circumstances, just bad luck. But what if I told you, the enemy doesn't need to stop you with obvious attacks. He just needs to keep you stuck. While you blame coincidence, he's building invisible chains. Chains so subtle you don't feel them until you try to move forward. And you can't. There are 5 attacks designed to paralyze you. 5 strategies that freeze your destiny while you chase explanations. And if you don't recognize them now, you'll spend years stuck in place, calling it bad luck, while the enemy calls it victory. First attack, the attack of comparison. Suddenly, everyone else is ahead. Their breakthrough came faster, their blessing looks bigger, their journey seems easier, and you're stuck watching while they're moving. This isn't observation, it's weaponized comparison. 2 Corinthians 10:12 says, "Comparing ourselves among ourselves is not wise, because comparison always steals 3 things: contentment with where you are, confidence in God's timing for you, and clarity about your unique assignment." Sarah experienced this with Hagar. God promised Sarah a son, but years passed. She saw Hagar's quick pregnancy, and comparison drove her to force God's promise through her own method. The result? Ishmael. Generational conflict. Decades of consequences, all because she measured God's timing for her against someone else's season. Your breakthrough isn't late because someone else's came early. Their blessing doesn't diminish yours. Their season doesn't define your timing. When comparison makes you feel stuck, you're not behind. You're exactly where God positioned you, and comparison is the attack keeping you from seeing it. Second attack, the attack of manufactured urgency. Everything suddenly feels critical. Emergency pressure. Right now demands. You have to move immediately. You have to decide today. You have to act before it's too late. But here's the trap. Real divine urgency brings clarity. Manufactured urgency brings panic. God's timing creates peace. The enemy's pressure creates chaos. Proverbs 19:2 says, "Desire without knowledge is not good, and whoever makes haste with his feet misses the way." Rushed decisions rarely align with God's will. Esau learned this with the birthright. One moment of urgency. "I'm starving right now. Give me that stew." He traded eternal inheritance for temporary relief, not because the hunger was fake, but because the urgency was weaponized. When you feel forced to move now, that's usually the sign to stop, because the enemy knows. Pressure bypasses wisdom, and decisions made under manufactured urgency lock you into years of regret. Third attack, the attack of isolation. You start pulling back from church, from community, from accountability, and you tell yourself it's wisdom. I need space. I need to figure this out alone. People don't understand. But here's what's really happening. The enemy is cutting your supply lines. Hebrews 10:25 says, "Don't forsake gathering together," not a suggestion, as survival strategy, because isolated believers become vulnerable believers. Elijah experienced this after Jezebel's threat, one threat, and he ran into isolation, into depression, into suicidal thoughts. "I'm the only one left," but God said, "I have 7,000 who haven't bowed." Elijah wasn't alone. He just felt alone because isolation convinced him he was. When you withdraw, you don't protect yourself, you expose yourself, because the enemy hunts stragglers. He attacks the isolated, he targets the disconnected, and once you're alone, he convinces you that staying alone is safety, when it's actually the trap that keeps you stuck. Fourth attack, the attack of sudden confusion. One moment you're crystal clear, the next, everything's foggy. You knew exactly where God was leading you, but now you can't hear him. Decisions that were simple become impossible. Direction you had? Gone. This isn't lack of faith, it's targeted disruption. 1 Corinthians 14:33 says, "God is not a God of confusion but of peace," which means confusion isn't from him, it's deployed against you. Job experienced this. God called him righteous, but the attack brought total confusion. His friends said he sinned. His wife said, "Give up." His circumstances screamed, God abandoned him. Everything that was clear became cloudy. But Job held position. He didn't make major decisions from confusion. He waited for clarity to return. And it did. When sudden confusion hits, don't move, don't decide, don't give up, because the enemy knows. A confused believer makes the worst decisions, and those decisions keep you stuck for years. Fifth attack, the attack of premature celebration. You felt the breakthrough coming. You sensed the shift. You saw the first sign of change, and you celebrated like it was finished. You announced victory. You relaxed your guard. You stopped the disciplines that brought you there because you thought you arrived. But you didn't cross the finish line. You just saw it. Proverbs 27. Don't boast about tomorrow, for you don't know what a day may bring. Not pessimism, protection. Because premature celebration opens the door to premature defeat. King Saul experienced this against the Amalekites. God said, "Destroy everything." Saul attacked, won the battle, and celebrated victory. But he didn't finish the assignment. He kept the best spoils. He spared the king. He celebrated completion before completing. And that partial obedience cost him everything: the kingdom, the anointing, the future. When you celebrate before you finish, you create a gap the enemy walks through. Because premature celebration kills the discipline that brings real victory, and the attack that keeps you stuck, it convinces you you're already free. These 5 attacks, they're not accidents, they're not bad luck, they're strategic. Sudden confusion that stops your clarity, manufactured urgency that bypasses your wisdom, isolation that cuts your strength, comparison that steals your contentment, premature celebration that kills your finish. Each one designed to keep you stuck. While you blame circumstances, the enemy marks it. Mission accomplished. But recognition breaks the pattern. Because an attack you can see is an attack you can defeat. And once you know what's keeping you stuck, you finally know how to get unstuck. So here's what you do. When confusion hits, don't decide. Wait for God's clarity. When urgency pressures, slow down. Test the source. When isolation calls, run to community, not from it. When comparison whispers, close your eyes to their journey. Open them to yours. When premature celebration tempts, finish strong. Celebrate after crossing. James 4:7 says, "Resist the devil, and he will flee." But you can't resist what you don't recognize. These attacks keep you stuck only when you think there's something else. The moment you call them what they are, you take back the ground they stole. You're not stuck because of bad luck. You're stuck because of unrecognized attacks. And now, you recognize them. So drop your number in the comments. Which attack has been keeping you stuck? 1. Sudden confusion. 2. Manufactured urgency. 3. Isolation. 4. Comparison. 5. Premature celebration. Type your number, then pray for someone else who dropped theirs. Because the enemy wants you stuck alone, but we're getting unstuck together. Stop calling it bad luck. Start calling it what it is, and watch how fast you break free.